Hi, everyone. It's Coaches Katie,
And Ashley,
and we are the See and Strive TLC.
supporting the coaches who support our teachers.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yes, we have a very special guest today, Justine Alberts. I have the pleasure of working with her in Helena. Justine has been a teacher, a coach, a principal, a curriculum director, a professor at the college level, and many other things. And so, thanks for joining us today, Justine.
Yes, thank you for having me. Very exciting.
So we're gonna just jump right in.
Okay.
So having served all of those roles, how did your understanding of coaching change as your roles changed?
Oh boy. Starting in the classroom, I taught fourth graders for quite a few years. I was also multi-age classroom in a very small school. I had fifth through eighth graders and like one seventh grader and 10 eighth graders. I did not ever have the opportunity to engage with a coach when I was in the classroom. So it wasn't until I was able to become a coach for our district as part of the Montana Literacy Grant in the early stages that I really began to understand how effective coaching is, right? We had to step in, had to begin building relationships with other teachers, which is the hardest thing that I ever had to do. Step into someone else's classroom and help guide them to a different goal or help them understand where they could improve. Um, so really bridging from being a coach into administration, I do think that helped me become a more effective administrator because I could go into classrooms and I think I knew how to work with teachers in a way that helped them understand when I was coaching them versus when I was supervising. And it also helped me really clearly differentiate. So I worked in a building that did not have an opportunity for a coach, right? So I had to serve multiple roles. And as an administrator, you see the need for instructional leadership, but you don't have the time. And teachers need that. They don't need a supervisor in their room every day, evaluating all the things they do. It makes them feel unsafe. They want to get it right. All of our teachers want to get it right for kids. And when you can build that kind of relationship and the coaching model in addition to being a principal, or if you can have someone that partners with you to support coach or the teachers in that way, that's really super powerful. Um, so yeah, moving from that into, gosh, I moved into the role of a professor, which I think the evolution of coaching really hit me there because as teaching teachers, teaching aspiring teachers, I had a lot of reflection kind of being back in that teaching role and helping our teachers understand you're going to step into this unknown and you got to find some trusted people that you can rely on to support you, guide you that aren't also your supervisors, or if you do have supervisors that are being your instructional leaders, how to differentiate and how to understand where they can help you versus where you're going to be evaluated, and even how that can become growth and goal setting. Um, yeah, so I became, gosh, I have a lot of jumping, huh? Curriculum director, and as our coaches are very necessary. I think at that point, as a curriculum director, you really see the overlay of how important it is for someone to be there to support and to help with install of curriculum, install of practices, and then just keep morale high because trying something new, changing, adapting to a different iteration of something really depends on someone being stable in the classroom, reliable, just a constant that shows up and is just there to be a support. And now, in my current role as an assistant superintendent, gosh, we all need coaches. It's not just for teachers, it's for administrators too. Working with Ashley and some of our previous coaches in the district, they really do a nice job, not only coaching the principals, but helping our administrators, whether they're principals or me, understand where teachers are at and how to bridge that gap and just make sure we're all speaking the same language and all really understanding we're set up for success, and this is the only way we're going to be successful. We trust each other, we're growing each other, we're working toward the same goal, and we're really going to meet you where you're at. So I don't know that my understanding of coaching has really changed. I think the perspective has, like how great of an impact coaching can have, all these different levels. That hasn't gone away. It's just become more and more clear. The further away I get from the classroom, it is so crystal clear how important coaches are to the role of education.
That's really important. When you say the further away that you get, that it became more important to you, because sometimes I feel like the further away people get from the classroom and from actually coaching, they lose that and they don't see the value as much in coaching. And I know when I was a coach, I always felt like I was in the middle. Like I was an admin, but I wasn't a teacher, but I was that person that buffered in between. And I know you kind of mentioned that too with Ashley, and does a nice job with coaching principals as well as teachers. So I think we all believe that the true value in coaching, but it seems to me in a lot of places that I go, the first thing that they look at this time and budgeting is the coaches have to go. We know they're valuable, but we can get along without them. So talk about that, because when you say somebody's valuable and that position's valuable, but it's the first to go, I question whether the understanding and the value of what coaches do is really well understood.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think having lived through place and time in our educational history where we were able to bring on, so our district brought on instructional coaches with our ESSER funds during COVID, right? Because those were dedicated specifically to intervention. And each building got an instructional coach. And at that point, everyone was very resistant, right? We didn't have a model that was district wide. The before was grant work, and there was very clear install for what coaches were supposed to do. They needed to focus on literacy. Before that, we had a math coach who just came in and modeled lessons. There was real no, there was it was like model lessons, more accountability coach, I think, versus instructional dig in, help support teachers coach. So had instructional coaches in the buildings. Principals felt like they were given a pot of gold. Um, Teachers were a little bit resistant, and it was a 2-year model for our district. And after that, they went away, and there was this huge hole to fill. So I think a part of this cut, some of our teachers were a little upset because they felt like these people didn't have anything to do because they weren't kid facing, right? It was an installation of a person, not a program or an understanding or a system. So I think once we begin to understand what systematic impacts coaching can have, and when it's done well and with the people that really understand the intention and have really great qualities and can walk in any classroom and do a really good job, or even work with principals to help their vision come to life, that's where the importance comes from, and it makes the little less like first one on the table for cuts. So what we've been talking about, what I've been really trying to focus on in our district is, okay, we may not be seeing the academic growth we want to be seeing. What is not staying stable, and what have we changed around it? And some of the models that we continue to flip-flop around have nothing to do with teacher support. Well, we've done this professional development. Where did it go? Well, we've done this new programming. What's made it feel good? And so last year, for example, last 2 years, we implemented a new math program at our elementary level, and we had a district math coach that supported the implementation, would go support teachers and planning, looking at data, helping kind of bridge the gap between materials, what they were seeing, getting them comfortable with the program. And unfortunately, right, we had to make some choices. We don't have that person anymore, but that person was super effective in helping teachers understand what the system looked like, and they're feeling comfortable this year. So in my mind, that's success. Would we still love that because we have more work to do? Absolutely. Math is very difficult. But when we can continue to look at the evidence that points to the effectiveness of that and helping, align that to strategic planning, excuse me, aligning that to academic outcomes, student outcomes, growth measures for students, it becomes less opportunistic to cut a coaching position versus maybe reprogramming things to make sure that that works because it's so impactful for teachers and for students.
So our district has a couple of different models for coaches. We have some coaches who are in schools in our district, and then we have coaches like myself who are TOSAs, and we're supporting more schools and doing district work. So, what role do you think any coach plays in kind of driving and supporting district initiatives?
Oh man, I mean, I think they play a significant role for sure. You quarter it out between you have your initiatives, right? And then you quarter it out. You have your administration, you have your teachers. You all absolutely need to include students in those initiatives, and then you have your layer of your coaches, which like we talked about earlier, is that layer between administration and um, teachers. And I think coaches, in my experience, when we work together, they kind of are the connectors. Like they put all the pieces together in a way that administrators can't do alone. So we roll out initiatives. I think the dynamic Ashley and I have, she very much keeps me level-headed, not only level-headed, but not out in the sky with where I want to be. Like, let's take off the rose-colored glasses. Where are we at currently? She helps keep a pulse on where our teachers, we could spend some more time doing this with our initiative or taking ideas and being part of that brainstorming. And again, being so far removed at this point from a classroom, which I really try not to be. I do try and spend my time in buildings with principals and teachers as much as I can, but I do need to know what my decisions, how those will be received and what the impact is. And I think that's where coaches play a really strong role because then they also are coaching our administrators. Maybe we want to think about it this way. Where's the data that shows this? So it slows us down. I think the role they should continue to play is just being that middle ground and making sure that we keep perspective on the decisions that are made with initiatives and also continuing to be those connectors. Where would this connect to? Where could this fall flat in the future if we don't think about sustainability, intentionality, and how do we collect the data to make sure that these things are impactful for everyone involved?
Yeah, it's with your role, you see the whole big picture, and so um it's good. You're right. There's a lot of things you said that, something that stood out to me is those coaches are that middle ground piece, that they're the ones that really know what's going on in the schools with your initiatives, with any new curriculum. Thinking back to when you were saying with the math that you had the math coach there for a couple years with the new curriculum. So that was a real wise way to do it, but you also are looking at the whole budget and the whole big picture too, and sustainability and all that. It's not easy um, looking at all the pieces, but
No, it's
at some point, I hope when we get more money in education, that coaches are just like any other teacher. They're just that valuable because they do make an impact. They do make such a difference. When I go to so many different schools and I see the most successful schools, strong leadership and strong coaches. And
absolutely.
and those are the ones that are making the difference and making the data move and those kids hitting their grade level standards. So, um, yeah, just thinking about it all with a big picture.
Hmm.
I think the most effective coaches, yeah, come from that effective administrator. Like what you were saying, Katie, with that big picture view, administrators just have so many different things on their plates. And as coaches, we have the opportunity to go really deep in one area. And then if we have an administrator who's really valuing the coaching piece, they know to come to us, ask about this one area, collaborate around this, and then they're off to their next task of many. But if we know our role, we're able to go deep and figure out what we need to do well, and then share that between coaches and teachers and administrators. And
Yeah, absolutely.
It has to be super, super clear. Ashley talked about this a little bit before, but we've had a model where we had title teachers in the buildings, and because we had lost every building's instructional coach, we merged our title positions to include instructional coaching duties in addition to title. In it in some buildings, it's working a little bit better than others. Some of our teachers have a desire and an ability to work really well with small groups. Some of our teachers, our title coaches, really have an aptitude for leadership and find themselves doing more coaching, co-teaching. So you really have, there's some qualities that when you look for coaches, a piece of the sustainability model and a piece of this first to cut situation, right, also needs to be the quality of your programming, right? Our coaches need to be well trained. They have to be able to form strong bonds, relationships with everyone they work with. Can't be so teacher centric that you can't speak to your administrators. You can't be so heavy on the administrative side that teachers don't trust you, right? So there's these unicorns that we got to spot and put in these positions to make sure that it flows well, or it does include a lot of work. If you're installing a coaching model, you got to be ready to give a lot of life to it and a lot of time and energy, um, and continue to find ways to make it sustainable by coaches coaching coaches and having these trusting meetings and finding time to dedicate and let them know they're just as important, because our coaches take a beating too. Like in the essence of administration, they're the ones that are in front of teachers when it's really hard, and they're the ones in front of some of these initiatives. They're the face of the news not everyone wants to hear. So when you find them, the ones that are coaches that are really effective, the ones that are trying really hard, we have to make sure in my role, have to make sure that I'm supporting them and I am crystal clear with the expectations. So that was one of the most important things we did with Ashley's position this year is this is what this teacher on special assignment is going to do. And these are the agreements we made so that she can hold the line when she goes into classrooms. There's a lot of discussion. Nope, that's not yours. Please do not pick it up. I need help here. Can you pick this up? Absolutely. So very clear definitions of what your job duty is and what responsibilities you have. That's also pretty important.
I think that's extremely important, because you go to school to become a teacher, but you don't get the training and instructional coaching. And so then you go from teacher into instructional coaching, and there's great systems out there to help you, but each school is so different. And when you're coaching, like I had 3 to 5 schools, each one was so different. So you do have to have that ability to understand your admin, understand the teachers, be able to flex. How is it going to look in this building? How is it? So on your level, it is extremely important to have it laid out. These are your expectations. Because if not, because a lot of coaches don't have that. This is you're going to coach, and now you're going to do this extra duty. Now you're going to take this group. Now you're going to sub this day because we don't have a sub, and now you're going to do this. And that's, I think, where a lot of big frustration too falls into coaches who
Mhm.
don't have that lined out for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Justine, end for us. What's one message you'd want coaches to hear, especially when the work feels hard? Because it does feel hard, and sometimes you feel like you're on an island. I can remember when I first started, I thought, man, I had teaching down. What did I think I was doing going into a coaching position? Like, what's one message you would give them?
Oh, um, I think so I'm gonna give you a little history. Ashley and I started as coaches together with the literacy grant. And on the hardest days, we would call each other and we Ashley was better at this than I was, but like think about the impact you're making. Think about the kids we're affecting. We're helping all these teachers do really good work for kids. And at the end of the day, if I have to go back in the classroom, I'm going to be one heck of a teacher because of all I've learned. So our coaches matter so much. And all the kids, all the students that we are positively impacting it's what's going to get you through. Like, yeah, change is really hard. It feels really gross. And our teachers are very attached to the work, so it feels so personal. And it's not, if you can find a way to get a teacher through it that doesn't feel like it's a personal attack, that would be, and that's always where we want to be. But the work you're doing is really, really important and so needed. So
I
needed.
think that shift is happening too, more from I'm in the classroom and I'm teaching my kids, and that's just me and my kids, to
Mhm.
more open to, okay, how can I get better? How can I do this differently? How can I reach my kids better? I think we've come really far in that area in the last probably 10 years in education of we're a team. We've got our PLC teams, we've got coaches now, and you're not an island just with your kids. And I think that's a good change in education I've seen.
It's so good. The needs there. It takes a village. And sometimes our student, like we're seeing a lot more need too with our students. And it's really important to go, holy, I can't do it alone. I don't want to do it alone. We're better together. And like I said, our kids are the beneficiaries of that team approach. So, yep.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being with us here, Justine.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank
Awesome. Thanks
you.
everyone for listening.
Yes, and remember, we are Strive TLC, supporting teachers, leaders, and of course, all of you wonderful coaches.
And don't forget to check out Strive TLC, the coaching tab. There's a lot of great tidbits there for you. So thank you, everyone.